Hello and welcome to Facebook Live. This is the Hero Spouse, and I am Kendra Ruth, here to answer your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. I am going to be going live today for about an hour. I received about 13 questions so far. Thank you to Tessa for posting the link again. I can get through 5 to 8 in an hour, so the next ones we will be trying to meet again at the same time next week. If it is not the same time, it could be 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. I'm trying for a little earlier, but I just have to balance it with Chuck's schedule. He barely made it home to watch the kids today. But the earlier I'm done, the earlier we can do other things and get dinner done. So let's get a few pieces of business out of the way first. I'm going live in 3 places. I am going live in a private Facebook group where your comments are safe. I'm going live on a public Facebook page where if you make comments, other people can see them. And I am going live on YouTube. Of course, comments on there are public. I'm going to go into each Facebook group or page and let you know, since you may not know if you are in the safe one or the not safe one. They're both safe, but I mean, your comments aren't. And so I will post in there. I will also be posting a link to Stand Up and Thrive, which is my membership. This Facebook Live is the kickoff for the 1-week open cart period. So Stand Up and Thrive is a membership for left behind spouses. And it is open for 1 week. We have weekly Zoom meetings. We have a 2-hour group coaching and 2 30-minute meetings. I try and alternate. Every week we have group coaching 1 week in the morning. The next week it is in the afternoon. That is Pacific time, but that is to accommodate others. So I believe in Europe, you would have to check with the Europeans. It is something like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening, or 9 and 10 o'clock, something like that in the evening. Australia, you really have to check with, but when you look and the Facebook Thrive, if you join in the Stand Up and Thrive dashboard, it will show the schedule in your time zone. So if you have more questions, I can double check those time zones. It's just not right here on the fly. So let me go in and I'm going to refresh my screen because I am watching as a spectator, just like you are, on my computer while I have my camera. And I want to, that way I can check that everything is working, and I can post comments just as you are. So hold on a minute. It's always hard for me to find the event too sometimes. Oh, yay. It's right here. So I am right now posting into the public group and then into the private group. And then we will get started on our questions. Okay, so there's the public group. And I will be watching the comments coming in. I watch them on my camera. I also double check in other places if I have to go back and forth, see names. And if I have time, I will try and answer as I go. But I give priority to pre-submitted questions. So, okay, just this last one for the private group. There we go. And the comments, I can see them coming through here. Let me know if you cannot hear me well, or if it's not coming in well. I did a sound check before and it was fine, but 2 months ago when we had our last Facebook Live, I did the same thing. And by the time we went live, it wasn't fine. I sounded like Minnie Mouse. So, and today, I believe every submission is an anonymous. So we're going to be a lot of anonymouses. And hold on, part of this first one got cut off. So I'm going to go to my Word document to read the data on it. So our first one, number 1. And I number these so that if you want to go back into the recordings and you wanted to do one of those search for words so that you can find, oh, I know mine was answered as 8. You can just search number 8, the word speaking, and then you can get to it faster. So hold on a second. we go. We have a female forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of July 2nd, 2019, a date of marriage of 2005. She has a clinging boomerang who is a low energy wallower. She says, and this is a long one, he revealed the alienator for the first time. Also, he's been depressed. And the alienator isn't even helping that. He's still very much running, but he's admitted he still needs to do the work. And he was interested in my growth books, or in my growth and books. It says growth/books. But he's admitted, no action there yet, though. He knows I disagree, I'm still sad, and I would love to fix things. I only told him that, plus that I accepted his choices when he's stressed out about it. Okay. Our living. We take turns parenting in the house. Plus, I stay upstairs on his days as I don't have a place of my own and I have Lyme's disease. So I don't have an income and he still pays the living costs. But this situation / the house, it stresses him. Does that mean they call it bird nesting, I think, when you're the one who leaves, but when the children stay and the parents switch around, even though you stay. We agreed to some actions, but he keeps pushing here. How should I act in this stage, which is depression or liminality? I long for boundaries to show strength. Stop pressuring me. Daughter 12 and I have given you half of our lives already for your freedom. Fix your own stress, but I want very much to be receptive and still feel safe too. So he's saying, stop pressuring you. And he says that he's given half your lives for your, is that what it is? In addition, a big question I have is whether I should accept his being uncomfortable co-parenting in the big house while I'm upstairs. Is it more important that way than my daughter 12 having both her parents around more or less and me not having to move places twice a week? Even if I want him to be cool about that, I can imagine and understand his stress. I'm often hurting to be in the same house as well. I just both emotionally don't want to accept that he is, and practically I don't want daughter 12 and I to lose even more comfort in each other in our lives. Am I being selfish? Am I hurting his possible healing and progress? Or should he feel the consequences of his deeds here? Well, first, you're not being selfish, and you have a difficult situation that we all have difficult situations that are unique to us. And your situation is that you have a disability with your Lyme's disease. And so moving houses is harder for you than it is for him. So, and I might know these answers. I don't know them off the top of my head from the history, but you're bird nesting, except you bird nest by going upstairs and you're still in the house. And it's because you don't have a place of your own. Oftentimes when somebody bird nests, they switch houses. Where does he live? Does he live with the alienator at the other times? What's going on in that type of situation, or is there one? That's one part I just can't remember. I don't think you're being selfish. I think he is stressed. And one of the things, and this is terrible, but we're going to go through trauma. We're going to lose things. We're going to have hardship. And our children are going to go through these traumas. We like to mitigate the trauma. But one of the things we really want is we want them to come through at the end. And we know that most don't reconcile. But let's say we could see a crystal ball and that you were going to reconcile. Is the trauma they go through getting there worse than the trauma they go through and then they don't end up getting there? So you get the trauma and then you don't get the same repair. Sure, there's repair, but if there's not a reconciliation, you still have mom and dad still aren't together. I still have a broken family. If there is a reconciliation, let's say it's a positive, good one, and it's good healing. Was the trauma worth that? And that's what you have to look at. So I think that I like the idea of bird nesting, but I don't think it's working from the way you're describing it. And I think you have to accept that you're not going to have the comfort, you and your daughter, and that sucks. I'm really sorry. But I think it's part of clinging and holding on to something that just isn't working and trying so hard to get something to work that's not going to work. And when you do that, you prolong the trauma. You prolong what might be an inevitable of, let's say he's not coming home. And then, so you prolong some acceptance and healing from that. Because hope is a great thing, but if there's an expectation embedded with it, it is like an open raw wound that's not getting healed sometimes when it's not coming to that. When it's not coming to that point of getting better, the wound just festers. And so it's not allowing your daughter to heal and to adjust and accept this new sucky life. I know it's sucky, but the two of you aren't in control of that part, the part that's him. And so I need you to figure out what you can do with that. Can the two of you switch places so you have a place to go after there and she can stay stable in one place? Or does it need to be the normal way, which isn't as great for the kids, where she moves with him on his days with her? You've got to figure something out that is meant to alleviate everybody's stress. And the hard thing about this is midlife crisis comes up to us and we get shouldered with it all because I'm under stress and I don't want the responsibility more, blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to know about our feelings. And we're stressed now and they don't care. And it's left to us. And it's not fair because we are still stressed and they just don't care. And we're supposed to care about their stresses and take away their stresses. And no, it's not fair. And it's not going to be fair. Okay? And with your Lyme's disease, that just adds something. It adds an even more valid reason for you to be selfish, which isn't selfish. But it's not going to fix the situation. So I think you need to find a better solution. I don't know what that is. I really don't. But it's not working. What can you do? And work with him with this. Since he comes to the house and you're still living in the house, but he comes there for his time with your daughter, it seems like there's some level of the ability to communicate. And the two of you sit down and talk and say, this isn't working. I think we need to figure a way to do the co-parenting thing in a manner that can alleviate the stress from both of us. I wish it would work this way, but it feels like you're too, if he's like, oh no, it's fine. And he's really not, but he's trying to be nice. Maybe he's not that way, but I can see it stressing you out. I understand it stresses me out too, but I just don't know a better solution. But I don't want you to be stressed. Because let's say it goes further and further and you get to divorce, or he finds somebody else if he's not with somebody else. And I know this situation, but I just can't remember off the top of my head. He's not another person, the next wife, if that goes there, isn't going to say, oh yeah, and every 2 weeks you get to go live somewhere else. I mean, that's just not, when we're talking, let's say the new relationship isn't the alienator and an alienating force even. It's not fair. And I know that sucks. How should you act in this stage in his depression and liminality? I think you need to work within yourself. The acting is, instead of thinking of yourself as acting, did you always get annoyed when you were a kid and people said, act your age? Because I always thought, I'm supposed to be, not act. Act is a way of fake it till you make it, which has merits, but is pretending. I want you to be. And I want you to figure out how to be healthy. I want you to do the healing work, the mindfulness work, the work toward detachment that gets you there. So that you are not indifferent, but you can have your own life while he's present. If you're in the same space. And you can be kind and cordial and gracious to each other. But you don't have to be bothered by his indifference if it's indifference, his rudeness if it's rudeness, his resentment. You don't take that personally. That's the detachment. So how do you act? Act detached. How do you get to acting it? By being it. How do you get to being it? Probably by acting it, because that's part of acting as if and faking it to make it, practicing it. I know you're talking about what kind of communication you should have with him, but really, I want you to focus on just being kind to him, not pushing. Don't think of this as a stand on reconciliation. Think of it as we have to work on being present in a cordial manner as co-parents. I'm not sure that that really answered a lot because you have a lot to think about, okay? So I'm going to move on to the next question, but first I'm just going to check through the comments a little bit. Okay. So undecided, my anniversary is August 19th. Bomb drop was February of this year. Moved out July 1st, so he's just moved out. Thinking about texting her, thinking of us. Should I say happy anniversary or just leaving it at that, at thinking of us? Don't do either, but do text her. Say, I hope you're having a great day. Don't send a memory, that sort of thing. Just say, I was thinking of you today. You can say thinking of you, then you're not thinking of us. I was thinking of you today. I hope you're doing well. But it's neutral, okay? That sort of thing. He has his apartment, not with her. Okay. And that's kind of what I thought given this. Are you able to, switch so that you each have his apartment and you each have the house? That's what I know a lot of people who do the bird nesting is they each have the same apartment, but they live there separate, and they each have the house or two houses or two apartments, however it works. So they live in the same spaces, but not at the same times. Okay, but my question is really about him versus me. He is stressed and should our daughter 12 give and me give up more. That's what I mean. I don't like the idea of thinking of it as you as giving up. And I know what you mean by give up. You don't mean like give up, stop wanting to stand, that sort of thing. But you mean, should we sacrifice more? I don't want you to say, I'm sacrificing for you. I think it is the consequences will be that you are sacrificing more. There is more to be given when you have to do that. Because like I said, it's about, you're going to have trauma no matter what. And you're trying to help her avoid trauma, and it's not working. Because that's the prolonged trauma. That's the, we have to give up more to get more in the end. I don't play chess, but that's always the example. Think about, you give up something now, so you're giving up more so that you can get more at another time. The hard part is that more that you want, the reconciliation kind of more isn't guaranteed. And we know that. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 2. And just check. Okay, good. And I'm going to check both places. It was clear. It's me. I think it was clear. Now I'm really not clear. Okay, number 2. This is an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of February 6th, 2021, a date of marriage of 1992. She has an at-home MLCer who is a low-energy wallower. She says he filed for divorce. He didn't talk to there's a friend he hasn't talked to, had not talked to since bomb drop. He called that friend to convince me to talk to him, to talk to the friend, to talk to me, to get the friend to convince me to sign the divorce papers because I refused to sign them. I don't want him to sell the house, but I can't afford to keep the house. I don't know how to convince him to keep the house or to not go ahead with divorce. It's because he can't. You can't convince him anything. What we do is we can influence people, but they still have to make the choice to change their minds one way or the other. Just like they have made the choice to change their minds about being married to us. They still made that choice, whether someone else influenced them or not. So our influence, the way we influence them is by living our best lives and being our best selves, by thriving, not just surviving. Just remember, survival means you have a pulse and a heartbeat. It's what I mean when I say survive. I mean when you go to first aid class or CPR class and they say you're not dead because you have a pulse and a heartbeat. Survive. Thrive. You're having a great life. You can get out there. You're choosing joy. It's more than just having a pulse and a heartbeat, okay? So you can't convince somebody else. What it shows to me is not accepting the process of midlife crisis and what that means. And when I say, sometimes when we say accept the process, people mean accept that they'll come through this. Accept that, cookies take 10 minutes to bake, and they're really, even though they look like they're not done at 3 minutes and all this, accept the science in the baking. But that's not all of it, because I can't guarantee you they'll come through in the manner you want them to. So accept the process of MLC, accept that they're in MLC, accept what midlife crisis is, accept that this is your present reality, even if it sucks. You don't want him to sell the house, and the courts might force the house sale. If you can't buy him out, and he can't buy you out, and they're not going to, or one way or the other, that house is going to get sold. And that sucks. I'm sorry. Why won't you sign? So, well, hold on a second. Thirsty. When I went through this, the divorce piece was only a few months long. He stopped it quickly and then just went through his MLC without that. But what I told the lawyers, I says, I don't want to sign it. But I understand you have to sign it in the sense that I just don't want it to be seen as I am agreeing with these things. My signature, instead, it should mean I understand that I have to sign this. Otherwise, I'm giving up things and not getting my piece of it. But my signature does not mean I agree. It means I stipulate to this is happening. I accept it. I don't agree with it. And one of the things the lawyer said is also she could sign in my place. So there's that kind of option if you want your signing to have some official, like I'm going to sign this, but it is a signing in, I don't know, duress, whatever the word is. My sign means I accept that's happening. It doesn't mean I agree. It doesn't mean I agree to these things, or I might agree to them. I don't agree with them. And you might, is it possible to put that language in? It might not make any difference, but if it's an ethical, moral thing that you just want it in paper, this isn't my choice, and I am still not choosing it. I get it, because that's what I wanted, even though it might not make any difference on outcomes in the sense of it doesn't make a difference on how much alimony one might get, or the co-parenting, how assets are split up. It's still, your children read it later. And they see, okay, mom didn't want this. She actually didn't want it so badly that she had this put in writing, just so somebody can know her thoughts. That sort of thing. Go for it. Because what are the consequences of you refusing to sign? And they may be different where you are. Is your refusing to sign going to simply be looked upon negatively by the courts as you dragging it out? And maybe they recognize, the court could recognize she's dragging it out because she doesn't want a divorce, but it could also be seen in that same light as though she's whining and screaming and clawing her hands at something that's going to happen. And then when it happens by default, you lose more on your end. And so you need to consider that. What are the consequences of refusing to sign? Does it go through anyway? In most places, you can't actually stop it. It will go through, your signature or not. You just, you're signing that I will agree to this much, take this much alimony. You don't sign it. Maybe you get none. I don't know. Look into that. Or maybe you're signing it just means you're being resistant and nothing happens. You can say, this isn't what I want, and still sign. So I'm not sure what's going on there, what's the mindset behind that. Because why would he keep the house? If you don't, it sounds to me like you don't want to leave the house. But why would he keep it? In other words, why would he not sell it when it's not his house anymore, when he's not the one in it, when he's not the resident? It's just holding on to things, and it's going to create more resentment. It's you not letting go. And if you don't let go, they don't return. That goes back to that really annoying thing about if you love something, you let it go. If it comes back to you, it's yours. It's annoying, I know, but it's valid at the same time. If you're holding on to him in various ways, maybe legal ties, and he can feel it, then he isn't being allowed to go out. Okay. Okay. Hold on a sec. Okay. Okay, let me read this next. Okay. Okay, I did this on the divorce. I did not attend. My lawyer did as a statement of not wanting it, but accepting it. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of. Okay, and the next one, I am going to just go back from one because don't worry, I have next week as well, okay? I understand you need to answer the rest, yes. Yeah. But the question was that daughter and I are comfortable with the current arrangements. Okay. And I would imagine she's comfortable. I mean, she'd be more comfortable if it was just normal, right? But I understand that. He's stressed and he's projecting it onto us. That's exactly. And so the wonder is, should we give up more to alleviate his stress? And yeah, because when somebody is in midlife crisis and you want to stand for your marriage, you're the one that gives up. You're the one that sacrifices. Because they're the one that's take. They're the one that's, this is my life and I'm calling the shots. Okay. So if he wants to stop bird nesting to avoid you, to avoid me, she says, should I either help him alleviate the stress and accept it? Or should I protect the current life that daughter and I have and pose a boundary, like tell him to stop pressuring us and deal with your stress yourself? His interest versus ours. Imagine that you were him. How would you take it when your wife that you're trying to leave says, deal with your stress, deal with it yourself. Just stop pressuring us. And first, isn't that what an MLCer says? Stop pressuring me. Do I need to help him by giving him space? Yes. So he can proceed his MLC? Yes. Or should he fix his own issues with his stress during the bird nesting and leave us be? Well, during the bird nesting, how can he leave you be? You're there. Should he fix his own issues? Yeah. But is he going to? Is it a situation that is conducive to that? Or is it just going to fester in it? I think it's festering in it. So it needs to change. So, okay. Let's see. We're going to go on to number 3. Like I said, I get 5 to 8. And right now we're hitting at a stride of 6, probably a little bit more because I talked a lot in the beginning, which is normal. Okay, number 3. This week, everybody's a female MLCer and everyone's anonymous. So we have a forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of April 1st, 2018, a date of marriage of 2005. She has an at-home MLCer who is a low-energy wallower. She says, my husband has been home for 5 years after there was 1 year of his living in his affair state. By in his affair state, do you mean with the affair partner, cohabiting or not, or just living in and out of the home and in having an affair? See, or after 1 year living in his affair state, but having the affair while at home, I can't tell. But he still seems to be wallowing, she says. I accept that they do come home broken. I've long since stopped asking questions, but I don't pretend either. He's never talked about how things are between us. It's like he lacks that vocabulary, he does. Or the courage. Each year he's ignored our anniversary and my birthday also, which I'm not sure if you mean that your anniversary is your birthday or he's just ignored both of them. That's fine. And she says, fine. This seems like something they do for whatever reason. This year he said happy anniversary to me by text when he was away for work. Then he said something about it being my anniversary rather than your plural or his. So I asked, do you mean our anniversary? He said, yes. I really work hard not to overthink, but this seems so odd. Do you think this is significant? Or should I carry on not wondering while he continues to cook? While he continues his process. That's what we mean by cook. I don't think it's super odd in a significant sort of way. I think that sometimes we say things that we don't realize what we're saying, but it still has that Freudian slip kind of thing. And so he's revealing things that he still thinks of that as separate from you. Here's one of the things I notice, and I notice about most of you or many of you. when you talk about your kids. You come in and you and your spouse have children together. And I see many left behind forward moving spouses referring to this as my daughter, my son, my, rather than our. And I question that because I don't know if you're talking then about whereas it's your child and their stepchild. Not because you're not even giving them that, but it just makes it confusing in that way. Is there more a different sort of history? So it confuses that. And then sometimes you can tell that it's both of yours, or it comes back to that when we ask, is it the same thing here? Why are they giving it the possessive? I notice so many of you not even being aware that you do it too. So is it significant? I think it reveals that he's not there, that he still has that, and he might not be aware of it. I don't know how significant that is. I don't want to use that word. I don't want you to blow it up. I think it's just like a piece of information that has meaning, okay? I just don't increase the meaning. Your bomb drop was 5 years, okay? So you're right within that time, but he's been at home most of that time, and this happens with that home. I think in fact, we have another question, if it's going to be today or next week, that is very similar because it's another one that's home like this, and how long I thought this would take. I thought that we would be reconnecting now. But this is the question I have for you, and maybe for the next one as well. What did you do or have you tried to do to repair? Officially. Not like, well, I read books and he didn't, and I tried to talk to him. And you sat on the couch next to him and said, hi, honey, we have to have a conversation. No, what I mean is officially. Have you done therapy? Have you said you should do it? Have you said, you know what, we need to figure out what went wrong? And have you done retreats? What officially? If you were to go to court and outline what you did, and that could mean that you went to therapy and he refused, but at least somebody went. It's not as great, but somebody went. Outline the changes you've made, sure, but those are your changes. I want to see how have the two of you deliberately, intentionally worked together to make amends and repair. And it doesn't sound like that's happened. And if that hasn't happened, then I wouldn't expect it to be fully healed. It could be fully swept under a rug. But remember, elephants, they make big giant shapes in the rug. So you can tell they're there. So one of the tests, and this is in the beginning, to see how of readiness is, you know what, you come home, we need to go to therapy. We need to go to marriage counseling. We have to figure out, no, I'm not doing that. Oh, okay, well, you're not ready. I knew that when Chuck came home, we had to push on that, but I also could tell it was going to happen with him. I could tell I could get it. I could push him into it at a later point where it wasn't as big a push and he would agree to it. But I also knew when it was too much being pushy. Hey, why haven't you done? Why haven't you done? What, too naggy? I knew. And so with some of you, I don't ever know if he's going to go. I could tell I could get it. So I knew I didn't have to push super hard. And it was, okay, he went after a few more months. If your spouse won't go to therapy, you go. You get a marriage counselor that'll agree to, single or couple, with the idea that I can't get my spouse to come in, but I think I need some help with my marriage, and he just won't. And I would like to see somebody who would be willing, who my spouse might show up, and he might not, but who will talk to me anyway. In other words, they can handle both. One day, we'll both walk in. Or the first day, I might have him with me. Find somebody who is well-versed in healing, and EFT might possibly. That is emotionally focused therapy, and it was designed for a fair recovery. If you can find somebody who understands midlife crisis, that's a bonus. I think the better part of understanding midlife crisis actually might be when it's only you going, when you're going through it, not going through a hopeful reconnection and repair at the end. But we just don't get a lot of those. Okay. So if you can get somebody who is accepting of you wanting to stand for your marriage and marriage friendly, those are the important pieces, and that they understand a fair recovery. But look up emotionally focused therapy and somebody who will see you on your own if your spouse will not agree. And you just tell your spouse, you know what? Okay, I have an appointment. It's Tuesday at 4. So if you can make it for when they should be able to make it, because you know they aren't at work or that sort of thing. And you're welcome to join me. Not you have to be there. And then let them see you going every week or every other week or whatever it is. Let them see you going and knowing, okay, I'm going to therapy now. If you'd like to come, you're welcome. See you later. There you go. And just be consistent with that and learn what you can through it. And maybe they'll join you. But at least you know you're doing your part, and see how that happens. Now, the other thing is, at certain points in MLC, therapy can be hazardous. That would be more likely the beginning rather than at the end. I want you to have some form of repair at the end with somebody who knows how to help you through it, somebody who has experience in this piece. But in the beginning, they go to attack you. They go to tell you why everything is wrong. They go to tell you just more trickle truths about the affair partner. And it can be more traumatizing. Sometimes that is why the left behind spouse has the PTSD, because of what was done to them in therapy. And the therapist is, I mean, we look at them like in a negative light, and maybe they're not trained for some of the pieces that come out. But it's a very difficult position because the therapist wants you to come back next week. They want to help you. And they're hearing two sides. And first thing, well, it's a he said, she said. And what do? And they also know that, let's see, they can tell that this one's the betrayed and this is the betrayer. And they know that the betrayed wants the therapy because they want to heal. They know the betrayer then doesn't want to be here. Their goal is to get the betrayer to return next week with you. That means that they have to not upset your MLCer, not push them so much, not blame them, not put so much of the blame and pressure onto them, not show them too much of that mirror, not hold them fully accountable yet. Because if they do too much, your MLCer is gone. They're not coming back. And so think about the challenge that therapist is in, because from your position, then it's like, well, they weren't calling him on this, or it felt like they were taking sides because they're trying to be very soft to your spouse to earn their trust. But then they don't earn your trust. It's got to be a hard job, right? So I want you to be gentle with them in those situations. But at this point, in this situation, after 5 years, he's home. Therapy. That could be individual, but I would like to see some marital therapy with a lot of reassurances about I'm here because I love you. And there's hard things, but we're here in a safe environment so that we can heal. And sometimes they're so afraid of, but you're so hurt. And if I talk about it, it'll just open up that wound. It's like, the wound never healed. It's like you had a surgery and something got left in there, and you have to open it back up to do some more repair work. And we have to feel safe. So there's a lot of safety that goes in a reassurance. I'm here, though, with you because of my commitment to making it better. Okay, let's move on to number 4. We have a female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of August 23rd, 2021, a date of marriage of 2000, and she has a clinging boomerang who's a low-energy wallower. She says, my husband has come and gone 6 times in 2 years. Oh, that sounds so familiar. That is not the norm, but it's what I had. He filed for divorce in September 2022, so not quite a year ago. Then he dismissed it, saying he wanted to work on us. Been there. Then divorce filed again in January of this year, and that is actively progressing. So September to January, which is not very much time. Filed, unfiled, filed. He continues to live at home. That's the one. He comes home every night around 8:30. Sometimes he comes into my room to watch TV and we end up messing around. The alienator has been a part of the picture for 2.5 years. And notice bomb drop was 2 years ago in about 20 days. So the alienator 6 months prior to bomb drop. So I have photos, credit card receipts from extensive travel, and verification from third parties. But he won't admit the affair. Yeah, what? And then she says, why? My side comment was the same. Why? He doesn't need to admit it. You already have the proof. You don't need him to admit that. You have the proof. Okay, hold on. He is divorcing me, but he's still lying about the other woman. I know this gets really, it's how could they and why can they lie about something when we have irrefutable proof? Here's your, here's video of you. It is not only video, but it is taken through a window and it's the two of you in bed doing what people do in there, not sleeping. It is all these things. They will, oh, that's not me. That's my twin brother. You didn't know I had a twin. I mean, it's absurd, okay? I have photos of, he's divorced and still lying about I have photos of the alienator and her daughter with him. He continues to gaslight me when I confront him. Now, I have a question about that. Does he gaslight you or does he try to gaslight you? That means his end of it is the same. Your end of it is different. If he is gaslighting you, it means he's succeeding. It means you're believing it. You're falling for it. Or is he trying? Because if he's trying, you damn well let him know, hey, buddy, that's not working. And you said it, and you do it firmly. That's when you do the firm voice. Okay. He gaslights me when I confront. And the other thing is, you use the word confront. You're just showing him the evidence. But it sounds, when you're confronting, you're trying to get him to just admit it. That's confrontational. Come on, I just don't understand why you won't do this. Because it's working. He's still at home, for one. Why? So that's part of the question we're going to have. I still love him. If I expose the affair and the divorce, does that hurt my chance at reconciliation? Well, if you don't expose the affair, if you allow it to stay secret, which it's not, but he's still trying to pretend that, will that hurt reconciliation? People ask this same thing about detachment. If I detach, will it hurt reconciliation? And then I say, well, if you don't detach, will that hurt reconciliation? In other words, if you stay stuck, hurt, not developed, entangled emotionally, would that hurt reconciliation? Would that hurt, if you did reconcile, would it hurt the stability of the relationship going forward? If you don't expose this affair, it enables it to continue. So several questions. Why is he at home? And what I mean by that is he is in an open affair. In other words, you know that he's having an affair and he knows that you know. And then you're letting him live at home? Or is he forcing you to have him at home because legally you can't kick him out? What can you do to get him out? That's very important. And there are some places where you don't have that power legally. And if they know you don't have the power, then they will use that if you tried. You can't do that legally, and so I'm going to stay here, and they have power over you in that. Or legally you can't do it, but they don't know that, or they have a respect of it, and they may not think of it in that way, but they're just like, it's not fair to me. And they're not that manipulative. They don't take that kind of thing. So with Chuck, I was able to kick him out because he was never going to say, you can't do that to me. I changed the locks. I think I was allowed to kick him out, but I don't know that I was legally allowed. It doesn't mean I'm doing something illegal, but because if I'd just given him a key. But it doesn't mean if I wouldn't have been allowed to not keep him from going into the house if he needed to, probably. But he wasn't going to call me on that. He wasn't going to go to a lawyer and say, my wife just changed the locks and I can't get into my house and I need the police to come. I knew he gave me that power. What is your spouse going to do if you kicked him out? So Chuck came home for a year and put his affair underground. And if you don't know my story, he came home 8 times. He came and gone 6 times. It's 8 times. You're at 6. So one of the times, and I think this was 6, he came home and then he stayed home for a year. Took the affair underground. When I discovered the affair, and I discovered it without all of these proof things, all it was he got rid of his cell phone. And she then gave him a secret cell phone. And one day I looked out the window while I was driving off and I saw him pick up a phone. I needed nothing more. And I especially needed nothing more because her energy had come back into our lives about 3 weeks or so before that, because his mom was in the hospital and the alienator worked on that wing. And so he was able to start talking about her. My mom's in the hospital and I saw guess who. So now, what am I going to do? Stop him from seeing his mom in the hospital? It was the cardiac ward. It was serious. So her energy was once again there. And then he had the phone. And so I didn't know if the phone he'd had for 3 weeks. Just got it. Turned out it'd been months and months. But I knew exactly why he had that phone. And the only reason he's picking it up in his car. He should have driven around the block with it before he picked the stupid phone up. And the next day, his bags were waiting in his truck. He took his motorcycle to work. His bags were waiting in his truck. He came in our back door through our alley, and I escorted him politely through the house, out the door, and said, your bags are packed. They're in the car. Goodbye. It was that fast. What does it take to walk through the house? 30 seconds? He was shocked. I kicked him out. And not only that, he had a warning. The warning wasn't like, someday it was, here is the consequence. This is a boundary that I set when he moved home 1 year before that. If you are with her again, you are not allowed to live here. So this was already communicated. The consequences were known ahead of time. He just didn't believe in them. And of course, since he had her secretly, there was, if you don't know the boundaries broken, you don't set the consequences right. He's not allowed to live in your house if he continues with this affair. And you already know he's continuing. So you need to say you have 5 days to get out, or, you don't give him 3 weeks. Find out what you're allowed to do first. And you stick to it, and you ignore that gaslighting when he says it, because you know what's going on. You don't have to even bring up the proof to him anymore. You've done that already. And so you don't have to keep arguing it, because are you going to win that argument? No. Yet if you were in court with your proof, but that doesn't mean he is going to accept. You don't win an argument even when you win the argument, if the other side doesn't accept your win. If they don't accept, is it really a win? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you have 2 sides scoring and they've scored you the winner. The other side's still not accepting it. It's not changing that. So you have to forget that he's not accepting it. Like, listen, buddy, you and I both know. And you can do all of this, blah, 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 gaslighting that you want. You can use that word with him. But I don't have stupid, and I sign language stupid, written across my face. You're having an affair. We both know you're having an affair, and you're not welcome here. I don't want this marriage to be over. You can call me when you choose to be an appropriate husband. Until then, I don't need to hear from you. You need to figure out how that's going to work. But it is time for it to be that way. Where am I going to go? It's not my problem. And he'll go to her house. It's not your problem. You let that happen. He will threaten you with that. Well, if you don't let me stay here, I'm just going to move in with her. That's going to make the affair more. Well, good luck, buddy. I'm sure you deserve each other. Okay. So legally you say you couldn't make him leave. But he left once he understood I was dead serious about the divorce. That's another way to do it. Yeah. So it's very difficult to make someone leave who doesn't want to. Mine didn't listen to me when I asked him to leave. And here's the other thing. And I was going to say, I think I know who's saying that. When I look up on my camera, it says user. When I look on in the private group itself, it'll say who it was. And yes, that's exactly who I thought you were. I'm trying not to use names just because of out, but you're the one I was going to recommend that she speak with. Okay. And in the private group, so the person who wrote this message, if you can read if you're reading in the private group, the comments here, the person who's commenting, I would talk to her. Okay. Because you're exactly the situation I was thinking about in similarity to this, because I was like, oh, that was the one where you couldn't get him to leave. And in some you can. So, and I know I told you this in the beginning, you don't ask them to leave. Same thing I told my children. And Chuck, if you're asking me, then in this kind of ask, it's not an open, it's a yes, no question. Well, the answer's no. Oh, my husband asked me for a divorce. Well, okay, I said no. No, I didn't ask Chuck to leave. I told him he was going to leave if he did this. And then I made sure it happened. And I had the power because he gave me the power in that sense. Yeah. And she can see your name. You can't see hers. So let's hope it works that way. Okay. Okay. I am going to move on to number 5. We might only get through number 5, but I'll see if I have any time to do any more if they stay quiet up above. Okay. We have a female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of September 1st, 2022. So we are at 11 months. A date of marriage of 1997. And this is the one I think. Nope, it's a different one I highlighted. Okay. Contact type is off and on and high energy replay. She says, I'm unsure if this is a midlife crisis or not. Or has my spouse just changed because it's an affair? Within the space of a year, I've seen him disappear. I've seen my husband disappear. A previously good man who became a liar. Now, when you say husband disappear, I think you mean he became a different person, not that he disappeared, but I'm not sure because you say he's an off and on. Okay. It started with him worrying about his weight, hair, and concerned about aging and boredom. Those are MLC traits right there. Okay. We were cohabiting together for 27 years. Bomb drop was that he was not happy. That was in September. And I found out about the affair just before Christmas. He left me and our girls 3 days before Christmas. Subsequently, he married the affair partner. She was from work, and he has known her for 1 year before that point, I think. It says, from work whom he has known for 1 year after Christmas without telling anybody. He ignored us more or less from September 22, from bomb drop to May of this year. Now that everyone knows about his affair and his new marriage in another country, he seems to be trying to come back into our lives and get involved again with me and the girls. So confused. I've been reading about covert narcissism and now wonder if he's a covert narcissist or if it's midlife crisis. Have you come across MSUers who go off and marry affair partners? Do they ever go back? Well, I can't help you with the covert narcissism. That's such a confusing piece because I always say, well, did you see these narcissistic traits? And then you ask covert, and I'm like, okay, well, if it was covert, we don't know. So, okay, Tessa, I will read your comment a little later and we'll look into it too, okay? Okay. Okay, I'll ask more for details. So, but have you come across MLCers who go and marry their affair partners? Yes. Do they ever go back? Yeah. Let's look at it more this way. There's no guarantee. But a marriage that starts out with infidelity, I like to say is doomed. But like I said, there's no guarantee. And the example I give as no guarantee is my father was the other man, and they were married for 29 years until he died. So there's no guarantee. I mean, not that it was a great marriage, but it was a marriage that wasn't going to end. It was just the Bickersons limping along. They were together. So do they ever go back? Yeah. What's really the case, though, is affairs that marriages that start as affairs usually do not last and end in divorce. Now, once they end in divorce, do they reconcile with you? They can, but do they? In most cases, there's not a standing spouse. So toss out the statistic of that one where there's not a standing spouse. Then what about the other cases where the spouse will be standing, but the betraying spouse who just got divorced from their affair partner doesn't know it, so they never try. The small piece of them who, I'm standing for our marriage. Oh, and I know you're standing. Which pieces of them are interested or not? Don't know. That doesn't mean they're ready. And so they continue from there. Yeah, you can get reconciled. The odds are against everybody. He married his affair partner. I think one of the things that this shows is the challenge when we're not legally married. They can take the alienator and put a legal lock on that faster. And the law looks at that. The courts will look at that differently. Oh, this one's legitimate. That one that was 27 years wasn't. And that's what's sad. Is if the two of you were married, you probably wouldn't be divorced yet. Now, he's showing interest in you now. Let's look at it from that piece, from the timeline. It's only 11 months in. Okay. And he wouldn't be ready. He is, you say off and on, or is he a clinging boomerang? Why do you think off and on? Because he's just tried to come back into your life. Now that everyone knows about the affair, he's trying to come back into our lives and get involved again with you and the girls. That's clinging territory right there. Okay. So that's what I want you to see, is that you might be, MLC lasts several years, and you're in for the clinging, possibly, of several years. Your job. Yeah, he's married. Just set it aside, and your job is to heal and to thrive and to be filled with grace when he is around, and set boundaries. And you live your life separate from him as an attractive force, and be an attractive force, not so that you can attract him, but so that you can attract yourself. I love that person in the mirror, and I am happy. An attractive force means I am thriving in here, because thriving, being happy and joy-filled, is attractive. And it means you're attractive to others. And remember, attractive, I don't mean like, oh, I'm so beautiful. I mean charismatic, magnetic. People want to know that person because that person looks like they're happy. Maybe not fun. Maybe you're a very serious person, but you are stable. You are calm. You are a calming force that people want to be around and are interested in. And that's what you need to be working toward right now. And then be there for him. Be gracious to him. And we'll see what happens with this marriage. Okay. Okay, I'm going to look and see. Okay. I'm going to answer one more. So we're going to go on to number 6 today. Okay. So we have a female forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of October 2nd, 2019. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to mark where I ended so the next time I start next week. Okay. October 2nd, 2019, date of marriage of 1999. She has a clinging boomerang, and she's not familiar with energy level terms. So let's look. She says, I've been standing for 4 years. The divorce was official in August of 2021, 2 years ago. When he first left, he was a clinging boomerang. He lived with his mom, and he began seeing the alienator. I wasn't aware of it then. I worked hard to be the best me and made changes. He told me in July of 2020 that he sees all of my great changes, but he just isn't here anymore. I didn't know he had by then moved in with the alienator. She is a friend from his high school and was well aware that he was still married. I've seen him cry, worry about my safety, say to me, I ponder how we got here, and even kiss me on the lips in a very loving way, only to then back off. Since the fall of 2022, he stopped reaching out. So since last year, Okay. I know the alienator puts demands on him and is controlling. Love that. She once took and threw his clothes into his mother-in-law's yard. Loved it even more when I read that. So we have an example. We can all say that she's really controlling her, I think. We have an example, a very specific one. She threw his clothes into in his mother-in-law's yard. Isn't that you? So I wasn't sure whose yard then, but because that would be your mom. Do you mean your mother-in-law's yard, which is his mom? But because he shoveled snow off of our driveway. We weren't divorced yet at the time. Oh, I love that so much. Our daughter, 21, will not engage with the alienator. He doesn't see her, our daughter, as often now because the alienator gets upset. Love it again. I mean, I hate it, but I love it. Because he is allowing this person to say, you can't see your children. Oh yeah, that's going to work out really well, isn't it? What do I do at this point? I still remain in the lighthouse, and I've told him I'm here if he needs me. Do I not reach out? Well, first thing, and what I think I want you to recognize is you have an affair down, and affair downs to the level that you're describing. Awesome. And what I did occasionally, yeah, you can reach out. Not often, just reach out. It's okay. He is a clinging boomerang. You're right. What you do is you reach out with truth darts. Because, I'm just so sad that you have to live on this electronic leash. Little darts like that. Yeah, it's too bad. Yeah, but you know what? You made that choice. You made a choice to be with somebody who doesn't care about you having a relationship with your children. If she doesn't care about you having a relationship with your children, she doesn't care about you. End dart. End dart. You don't go into more detail. She obviously doesn't. She obviously is selfish, maybe very borderline, but she doesn't care about you. Because if she cared about you, she'd want you to have a relationship with your daughter. End dart. You don't give multiple darts all at once, that sort of thing. And you say it with empathy. Because it is sad, isn't it? Sad that you are letting somebody control your life. And this other person, we could blame it on her. We could blame our daughter not seeing her dad on her, but you're the one that's allowing the control, and you're the dad that's not seeing your daughter. It's you. These are your choices that you're making. And go read Emotional Blackmail by Susan Forward. Beautiful affair down. You can go look up my affair down article and read Emotional Blackmail, because this alienator's got it. And that is beautiful and wonderful. But I want some of those truth darts into him with empathy, because you're not that way. Okay. So we are going to end here. I want everybody to remember that Detach and Thrive, or not Detach and Thrive, Stand Up and Thrive is now open. Detach and Thrive is my course on detachment, which is embedded into Stand Up and Thrive. And that is an 8-week course. So I put 8 weeks between opening times so that everybody who joins can go through it before we start adding new people and having them come into our meetings. For the meetings are right now during the school year, or during the summer. They're a little different. We have 30-minute Zoom lives on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock Pacific time. And that is a 30-minute session. And then, 2 o'clock, no, I'm sorry, Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And Fridays at 2 o'clock Pacific time, p.m. In the school year, those will be Mondays at 2 o'clock Pacific time and Fridays at 9 a.m. Wednesdays, they're the same throughout the year. 1 week it is 9 a.m., 9 to 11 Pacific time. So get your time zone chart out. And the other alternating weeks, the other week it is in the afternoon, 1 to 3 Pacific time. Okay. So I will see everybody next week. Tessa, I'm going to PM you. Okay. About that last comment. Or maybe even go on a video for a moment, so it might be faster. And I will see everybody next week. Have a great day.